Good evening, November 13th, in the Gentile year 2023, in the Jewish year 5784. This hopefully will be I don't know, because HOBO Shoestring, when you started talking about Lewiston and Waterville and see, I'm an expert on Maine. I'm an expert on Texas, my native state. Pretty much I'm an expert on California, although California is huge. It's changed a lot. But definitely I'm an expert on third boxcar midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine, which I jumped ahead a little bit, but you didn't really ever show any part of Bangor. You claimed you were north of Bangor, and then you said you were like still in Waterville or something. You seemed kind of confused. I want to make this. I'm sorry when I can't stand when I can't see my own eyes. I don't like because I try to. And actually, that's the first thing I wanted to mention, was that between repeated observations of paranoid schizophrenia in Mr. Mark Nicholson, aka the professional hobo, who may have stolen kind of the idea from somebody else, a female who's actually did it high class, and another guy called King of the Hobos or something like that, or a hobo king, or I can tell that you're a thinker. That's why you've developed this character that maybe you got from your father. The guy, at least you said was your father. You talk slowly, you look at the ground constantly, because you're deciding what to include and what to exclude as you're conning people. Please, I have dealt in those that are real loyal fans of shoestring. They've got that YouTube thing down. Somebody will make a negative comment, they'll come along and shit talk them. Same way, see, the reason I'm making this video, because I was talking about what I wanted to talk about, which is science and my observations, which have nothing to do with trains and people's trains, little boys with little penises and their obsessions with big trains going into tunnels. God, your life is so Freudian, dude. But it really kind of spooked me when you talked about going to a possible stop in Lewiston. Let me first finish some of the psychoanalysis. This is somebody who, for an unknown time, because I'm not going to watch, 500 hours of your videos. I'm up to way too much now. I'm up to, God, like, 3.5, 4 hours of watching your shit. Somebody warned me the other day that HOBO Shoestring recommended you. So I didn't delete him. And because I really don't do that community posting shit. He's real into big self-promotion. Telling stories to people about all this trying to convince him he's actually, at one point, on a technical point, I caught him just making shit up, and he knew he was making shit up, and said, put down in the notes if you know more about it, or because he was making it. Even I knew that what he was saying was bullshit. It was, dude, you're apparently all his life he's been running away from something. And actually, what got me triggered was earlier today, a guy came on and he made a coherent, cogent, gave me a compliment on one of the hypopigmentation. uh, subject. And when I actually checked the guy out, he was a disorganized schizophrenic, not a paranoid schizophrenic alcoholic like Hobo, but a big fan of Hobo. That after the first comment, that brought up his comment that he had actually made previously that was absolutely unintelligible and incoherent. When I looked at his channel, I've watched 2 minutes of him talk about being molested as a child and being an expert in human psychology. I don't know whether to believe him or not, because a lot of that psychology I learned in Maine, where they have the prostitutes. And, there's a book called Lolita for a reason. Young girls tend to be very seductive, even of other young girls and women. It's so easy for a woman to seduce another woman into liking them. Oh, your hair is so pretty. I love it. They just endless. And since they don't have a penis, the female doesn't see the female's compliment as an aggressive act, when in fact it is. I can read you like a book. I'm just trying to figure out what happened in your past. Apparently, I did a short where apparently you actually briefly visited your son and played Flip the Bottle. Gee, I wonder where you learned that game. I bet you it was glass bottles, because this is a guy who freely admits that up until he claims he lost them by accident. I ain't sure about that. Until he lost his fingers and stuff, he was in the habit of, you got to be a pretty serious moocher. Oh no, there's some beers that are pretty fucking. I don't really drink. I don't really know the prices of stuff. I know the prices of some wines. Sometimes I need ethanol as a human nutrient, because I'm smarter than you and I know what needs to be fixed, and I don't need, most of the time, despite a mountain of health problems, I avoid doctors like the plague. But this is a guy who, my point is this is a guy who admitted that at the time that he was forced to go into detox, I think that was also like the day he had cut off, that's really an odd. You literally would have to have had, especially because of the angle of the wheels, the 3% angle, because train wheels, trucks, whatever, are put at an angle so that they make minimal contact with the steel rail. I think he knows that. He just had to have somebody with technical expertise. He shows a lot of really not being, because please, I watched when the freight from Canada stopped coming in. When was that? Like 2009, during the bust and stuff, were actually the weeds on the tracks going into Bangor. It's pronounced Bangor, not Bangowa, like the down easters. And the rules of English is that the locals determine pronunciation. You go into the courthouse, and you might come up with some questions like, I'm looking for something. Are you from here? Or are you from here is the key thing. If they say yes, then doesn't matter what kind of where you're. Well, I'm looking for a place, and then you listen to them pronounce the word. It's pronounced Banger, not Bangor or Bangowa. I am an English scholar. You know how to tell. This is the character that this psychotic is portraying. And please, I really don't. Nobody gets out of this life, save and except the stillborn, without suffering from psychosis, depression, anxiety, etc. Those fall into the mood disorders. We all have those. Most of you have been medicated for those. Speaking of that, I've got to, because I mentioned something earlier, I don't want to do any addendums to this critique. And I'll fucking go 30 minutes if I want to. You fuckers listen to this guy talk slowly, like Forrest Gump. I was kind of mimicking him the other day when I was doing the Liquid Death promo for him. That's what I noticed in watching. He knows to push products. Somebody's told him that the Google AI is trying to recognize everything in the shot, and it can. Well, please, I I did a variant on the Rainmaker movie, and it automatically attached my video right next to the movie. It was Rainmaker Part 2, and so it attached my video. I know what I'm doing here too, and actually, unlike him, I'm not trying to build a a YouTube empire that only brings him $11 an hour after taxes and FICA, after taxes and Social Security, for a 40-hour week. It's it's around $22,000 a year after taxes in that tax bracket. And of course, he'll get all that money back plus earned income credit, probably. I don't know. I've been filing 1099 miscellaneouses for decades or whatever. Yeah, I know what it's like to be in the top 10%. I think. Anyway, he's been going around. He's developed this character. I don't really think he was ever in the military. I have to agree with those people that call him a fake at that too. They go, "Oh, he's a veteran. Respect him." Please. I had a guy that I met in Austin, Charlie, and people would ask him, "Are you a veteran?" And he go, "Yes, sir." I'm sorry. People like Charlie and people like HOBO Shoestring usually don't ever become veterans of the service because a court told them it's either join the army, join the military, or go to jail. That's what I got a feeling happens somewhere along the line. And then it doesn't take much to get out of the military. They'll boot you for just calling a fellow soldier a nigger or a dyke or something like that. It's that simple. I know a guy who did that. He wasn't even in there for boot camp. They kicked him out after? Then that's cleared it. As far as the court records, he's free to go. So you just don't strike me in because some of your he's actually got a deputy down in Florida. That's one of the first guys I bumped off. He had that little Satan-shaped, T-shaped, triangle-shaped soul patch. Real vicious fucker. I started early, I'll finish it now, is his followers have one consistent thing, even from that nice guy who shot a video of him that's all separate on his own. I don't know, I can't remember the name of his. It's like starts with a G. And he's kind of like, he sets up a scene. This guy's totally, I've told you from the start that this guy's a real hammy, low-class actor. And he even did during the one of the videos that I was actually, I think I sat through almost the whole freaking video. He even starts doing some like Charlie Chap mimicking, sound off, and starts. This is a guy who actually like listens to rap music and shit. That's because that when the time comes, but he's shows pretty consistently signs of paranoia, paranoid schizophrenia. He's isn't quite that disorganized, but his delivery, his style of storytelling could indicate some disorganization. I do fragmented speech all the time. I talk about the fact that my mind is racing ahead, and so it's hard for me to make a real diagnosis of him other than he clearly shows a sign of he's not some adventurer, living the grand life. He's a fucking trespasser that so many people, and this is where I have to make a point. So many people have come on to tell me things, and then instantly people like Loretta or one of his other buddies, hobo buddies or something, will come on and then tag on some really nasty shit. And I caught him saying shit. He's not entirely not vulgar. He can be vulgar when he wants to. This is Texas, where cussing is considered an art form. You are not considered a man in the state of Texas unless you are a master in a cussing match. Unless you can whoop somebody in a cussing match, and preferably in a comical way. I know the Texas culture, and he's coming from Port Arthur, where a little gal with the bad complexion and the booze and drug problem, the white soul singer Janis Joplin, she come from Port Arthur. And I keep listening, because really in that area in north of Port Arthur, they do the Tennessee nasal twang. It goes kind of like this. And I don't hear it. He's actually got more of a Central West Texas, Germanic, Anglo-Germanic, guttural. There's only two dialects in Texas. East Texas, Tennessee nasal twang. So he's an expert on showing children's toys to grown men and women. That railroad that Santa brought you that Christmas, and that night you found something in your pants. Yeah, because you was dreaming about trains going into tunnels, and you've now spent the rest of your life dreaming about that. I think I might go 30 to 40 minutes on this shit. I've been getting such fast uploads lately, and I've been getting 5 to 10 megabyte per second uploads and shit. I don't need to be hooked into the internet. I don't need 1 gig speed. I don't want to and don't need to consume or transmit that much shit. But what his followers do, and that's what he did too. He considers himself like the professional hobo. But he kind of assumes a submissive tone of voice. He speaks slowly and shit, but he hangs out with shit talkers who think they're badasses, and he thinks he's a badass because he's admitted he's in jail twice a year, which is sums up with that because criminal trespass is up to 180 days. To get out in anything less than about 60 to 90 days for a criminal trespass requires paying a $5,000 bond. I don't think matter of fact, right now I'm working on the assumption. Let me finish the first thought. See, one of the signs of genius is that I can take you down a train track, go tangential, and come back on it. That's what I'm trying to do now, even despite my mental fatigue. I've been up since 3 a.m. And I can see him in the last video or so. He is fatiguing really quickly, mentally, and even his eyes and stuff like that. I haven't seen his lenses, so I can't give you a diagnosis. But what his followers do is what all sadomasochistic, boozing, drunkard, blackout drunks like him. I mean, he freely admits it. He had to go into detox. He was so freaking bad. He's running away from something, and he's attracted people. He's developed this fake persona. Persona means mask. Do you understand? Do you comprehend? A mask. Persona, mask. Comedy, drama. He does all this stuff, and it's hammy. When I emote, it's genuine. It's my brother Charlie copied it. I'll get back to finishing that point. Is that I've had to delete a lot of testimony against you, Mr. Hobo Shoestring, because you've trained and you do it yourself. You come on and talk shit on other people's channels. Your buddies come on after you put up there an attack deal. You posted a picture of me and stuff so that everybody could locate me, a link to me probably. Didn't see the link was probably hidden in that picture. And the attacks began. And consistently, every time somebody would pop up to comment on my channel, I never commented on your channel. I think I made a comment tonight, not sure. But what is pack of dogs? And I've been threatened by Anonymous. I read that in after he posted, there were at least 3 what could be considered in Texas reason for me to shoot you. They were death threats on me. I reported 2 or 3 of them, but the way they're styled and phrased in Texas, the minute we feel in danger, I mean, when somebody makes a threat like that, we get to just shoot you. That's probably why you don't come back to Texas much. And Granbury is a hell of a long way away from Port Arthur. Port Arthur is, by my pronunciation, I'm letting you know it's near the Sabine River in Louisiana. God, you got some really retarded. See, that's what, I'll finish it. They'll come on after somebody makes a negative comment about it. They'll come on and start shit talking them in a fashion I'm not going to tolerate. And in order to get rid of them, I found it's very slow to block their channel and their comment. It takes forever. It encourages. So you have to actually go back and then erase the original comment that one of his attack dogs that he sicked on me. What was it? 6 days ago, 7 days ago. I don't know. I've been kind of busy lately. He'd been fucking just laying around sleeping for 11 hours. I slept for 11 hours last night. I got to learn how to hide all my teeth. So that's what they do, is they've worked up a pretty good routine because there's been like money market, something like that, or that showed exactly how many she gets. 28,000 views a day. Ad revenue totals around less than 25,000 a year after taxes. 22,000 and change. That's less than $2,000 a month. There's actually one old broad on there that kept asking if he would mind escorting a 61-year-old lady. Escort means to boink. You don't speak. Date means sex. Escort means prostitute. And that's really what, after reading that, because she repeated the offer several times during that comment section was, I have no idea why she would be attracted. She must be fucking hideous. I'm kind of rather enjoying this because uh, in the end, he brought me people that are rational, know the law, know that he's a glorified outlaw, which that's really surprised me. There's a deputy in Florida that's a big fan of his, reads and watch everything, and he's an officer of the law, and he's encouraging a criminal. Yeah, this is a guy who goes around. Jesus, he's a major liability to the railroads. He's been running with a pack of liars and bullshit artists for apparently his whole life. He doesn't really go back. And that's one of the dead giveaways when somebody talks that slow like Forrest Gump and looks at the ground a lot while he's talking because he's rummaging through his thoughts, like I said, trying to figure out what to present and what to hide. That's what you're doing, hobo, is you're hiding. I've unfortunately spent too much of my life in the public eye. You're on here saying I'm trying to steal your fucking glory when right here in this town, I've already talked about it in previous videos. For almost 2 decades, I had like the most popular, I was one of the most talked about town, and the town that is world famous that all the techies and everybody wanted to come to because we got the Tesla plant here, we got the Dell plant, we got all this, Austin, Texas is world famous, and it's been ruined by a bunch of wealthy international hobos. Except they come riding in here in their Teslas and their Mercedes. Actually, I'm living in a nearby suburb of Austin. The amount of Teslas, Mercedes, Porsches, foreign vehicles, those big, giant, really nice Cadillac SUVs and stuff like that, that you really don't hardly see an old car here and a dirty car. It's a very wealthy community. And he talks about one time the cigar box and the New Testament Bible, none of that Jewish part, and a $50 bill. When I got here and got out of the emergency room and stuff like that, I was taking a break at the 7-Eleven. I was actually just kind of hiding behind it. And some guy comes up, and I was trying to kind of nod because I'd been up all night from following the attempted murder. And some guy presses a $50 bill right into my hand. I don't even see the guy. It's, thank you. And he goes, God bless you. And right then I knew he actually meant it, as opposed to. See, I know what's happening. I know your numbers. Your numbers are going down. Your income's going down. You're kind of burnt out, number-wise. Analytics. I've been watching my analytics. I knew I needed to bump them up again by just talking about you one more time. I did one day or so ago, yesterday or something. Lately, I've been pumping out 5 or 6 videos a day because I feel like talking about shit. And I don't really. I had one church lady try to weasel back in by generosity again. This is a woman who's given me a lot of money and kind of does anything I ask of her, offers me more. I'm not a covetous person like you, Mark. You somehow got in your idea in your mind that you wanted to be the rich, famous merchandising. When YouTube come along, you saw how easy it was. And it's really not happening for you, is it? Somebody claimed that you're making more money off your merchandising than your YouTube videos. Your merchandising just exists. Because I noticed that in actually the very first video I watched of you, you spend this endless amount of time displaying product, your bucket, the stuff in it, and, the generator fan and all kind of endlessly doing commercials within a YouTube thing. That's why I did that parody with the liquid death. Actually, that wasn't from the Swiss Alps. It was from Austria, the mountains of Austria. That's just like about $3 a can. I keep a couple in my pack because I don't want no screw cap bottle leaking on me. When you're in a wheelchair, you always got a pack. So that's one of the things that really bothers me. Even in your most recent videos, you're still able to squat down and rest your butt on your heels. There ain't much wrong with you. See, that's the thing, is your physical body's still in fairly good shape. And your organs are shot from years of abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. If someone tried to tell me that HOBO Shoestring had never smoked meth, I'd tell them they're full of shit. Because about the two biggest things I've seen in my whole life that causes that premature loss of all teeth is extreme alcoholism, three things: not brushing your teeth, extreme alcoholism, and meth. Because meth heads ratchet their jaws like this and break their teeth off. Please, I'm a people watcher, because psychology, meaning studying the human soul, and HOBO Shoestring, I don't like your soul. There's something just creepy about it. You deliberately speak slow, and you pretend to be dumber than other people, but like an expert on one thing, your toy train set. It belongs all to you. You're not trespassing, you're just using something they're not using. And I was going somewhere earlier, I'll bring it back on. You keep pointing at stuff and like rust on it must have rained, and I'm sorry, in any area where I can look and I can see that's, he pointed out a wheel, and rust can happen fairly quickly, but it usually does not. It usually takes a long time, and you kept showing rails that hadn't been used in a long, long time. Why not? I'm at 33 minutes. When I first started on YouTube, it's actually been 7 years ago, I think, this month. Around this time. It was still warm. I'd already analyzed it. I know what it took. I knew I wouldn't be successful because they love high production value. They don't want to see, 7 years ago and before, they wanted to see young faces, and most of them really wanted high speed, scripted, guys that are talking, 800 words a minute minimum. Guys that have rehearsed it, have read their script, 6 or 8 times, and they got that script rolling. They got a teleprompter right in front of them, and they want all sorts of editing and music and things moving. That's actually what I require in film too, is that there be flow of the camera and of the dialogue, preferably at the same time. Yeah, he's This guy don't even know me. I've never met him. He's trying to hobo me out of my YouTube check and shit. He's trying to climb up on my fame. Never fucking heard of you. I have no idea how you ended up on my homepage on YouTube. Not a fucking clue, other than the fact that I occasionally watch, especially about locally here and in cities that I've lived in, the rapidly deteriorating homeless situation. Because as a religious person, I know that what the liberals claim, and they don't use it, they use the homeless as a political pawn to get drugs completely legalized, when only an insane person would allow cocaine and methamphetamine and fentanyl to become legal possession. I agree with the deregulation of recreational drugs, but only the ones that don't cost society more money. Because it's really impossible. We can treat schizophrenia now, but you can't really cure it. Once that dopaminergic defect pops up, it takes Cyprexa probably for the rest of your life, and there will be an improvement on those dopamine analogs. See, this one thing that really bothers me about Mark Nichols is that you can kind of tell he's just kind of, pretending to be an expert when there are actual trained experts out there, the guys that actually really have studied it closely and stuff. He's mostly going by deductions or just taking flying wild leaps and stuff. And he was talking about, like, amount of rust on the tracks and stuff like that. I'd mentioned that I think it was 2009, the bus when the Canadian lumber, that's when he goes in his third boxcar midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine. There used to be an enormous amount of Georgia Pacific lumber coming out of Canada headed south. And funny, I had a friend in Bangor, a young man, that was his gift from his father, was $100,000 in Georgia Pacific stock. His dad worked for Georgia Pacific. So I got somebody peekabooing me. I'm like the most famous homeless guy in a very conservative town. And I think he even took a shot at me as that I'm the type that would have voted for Trump. I would absolutely never have voted. Never. Trump was one of the worst presidents ever. I'm a fact-based in my. Trump and Biden are both just flunkies of the military-industrial complex. You can, when you're sober, you put on, and you've been developing, even when drunk, this kind of submissive, slow-talking, Forrest Gump, likable mask called a persona that's totally fake. Because I can tell, because if your persona were real, Hobo Shoestring, all these mad dogs that you're herding around and sent after me, you wouldn't associate with them. I wouldn't associate with you. I generally don't associate with anybody that's fucking toothless. Why? Because, as I said before, it only costs about, in most states and stuff, they're $150, $175 to go to a dentist to get a set of teeth. And it indicates that that you're a loser. That's why I pointed at the fact that I have all my front teeth and shit, is because I've won more fights than your Florida deputy buddy ever won. I've been in more, because for one thing, I learned early on in life, there's no such thing as a fair fight. I'm almost at 40 minutes. See, that's what you're doing, is you're fighting dirty. You got a whole gang trying to go up against me. Thousands of people. While you sit back and you let my dogs are coming after you. You're a little fucking megalomaniac. You really have delusions of grandeur. Everybody uses, this is an area that's got all kind of, because it's actually a fairly good traffic management. Talked about it before in other videos. I think I'm going to make, because I'm pretty sure if you check your analytics, only the people that are touching themselves while listening to your gentle voice, like that Edna gal who wants you to escort her, nobody goes all the way through your videos, because I haven't really seen one yet where you're shooting any real scenery out of a boxcar. That's why I watched the third boxcar one, is that you were indicating you were going to show some scenery, and I didn't see any scenery. I mostly saw you pointing the camera at yourself, or pointing, talking about stupid shit, and that boy in Waterville. And I may actually end it here. Is one of the scariest things is as soon as you started, and everybody pretty much knows about you know why the guy in Lewiston snapped? Is because they brought in a group of refugees, I'm sorry, asylum seekers who are not legitimate asylum seekers. They are seeking economic gain. They came from other states and other countries and shit, because the word gets around, Maine is a total welfare state. That's really why I figure you went up there, is to go get you some GA money, general assistance money. Go up there and stay a month or two. You get one check, that'll fund you for a month on the rails with some mooching, because begging don't go over good anymore in Maine. It's, oh God, I know so much about banging that you really, at the minute you talked about Lewiston, the possibility you might jump out at Lewiston, means you've heard the hobo talk, that you can suck all the little boy dick you want, either in Lewiston, Waterville kind of too, but Lewiston is where I may have already mentioned, that's where they held the state NAMBLA meetings. Yeah, man, boy, love. And that's one of the reasons this guy snapped, is that Lewiston strong, actually, Lewiston has always been morally bankrupt, morally weak, as long as I know. And I've had family in Maine. They stayed there. They've been degenerating intellectually, and they still spell their name on a branch of my mother's side in the way it was spelled 400 years ago when we first came to America. And Lewiston's a complete shithole. It's full of people that the state of Maine have been putting up in hotels, while native Mainers have been having to camp out or sleeping in these ghastly shelters, stuff that are just horrific. And they've been giving first-class accommodation, because I don't know why, other than that's to recruit and new voters, because they had 40 years of Democratic rule. The state was absolutely in a shambles when I first arrived there, and I helped not once but twice get Paul LePage elected as the first Republican governor in over 30, almost 40 years in Maine. He managed to build up a $1 billion surplus, which the next governor, Democratic governor, actually, but he wasn't paying the hospitals or recall the hospitals were doing, a lot of them, they were doing abortions and billing Medicaid illegally, because federal money, it has to be state money. And he was withholding the state money part of Medicaid for abortions. And as soon as Janet Mills came in, that was because this is what all the general consensus was, is that almost all of that $1 billion. Because see, in Maine, $1 billion surplus is enormous. Their budgets up there are tiny. There's just barely over 1 million people in the state of Maine. And she spent most of that $1 billion paying back. Actually, he paid back the hospitals for legitimate debts that were owed. And then she pissed it away on paying for abortions. And I think they just voted for taxpayer-funded abortion in Maine. Maine is, there's a large part of Maine, the rural part of Maine, the northern, anywhere above coastal Maine is fairly conservative. There's still a shit ton of liberals in Bangor and Waterville, Lewiston, places he was going, because that's still considered kind of somewhat coastal. And then towards the northern part is where you find the Republicans, the Trump worshipers and stuff. And I just was hoping, I was watching that video, hoping you would pass under the I-95 bridge. Yeah, is it 95 or 390? It's I-95 bridge that goes on the west side of Bangor, where they've had a hobo camp there forever because the train has to slow down there because it's in town by now. And hobos jump. They got a big camp built there, and almost every guy in that camp, all they think about all day long is getting a hold of getting one of them young boy in their mouth, and their big toothless mouths and stuff. It's every young boy in that area knows to go to anywhere. You really triggered a lot of my psychologically. I find you a complete phony, and you have a fake persona. I'm seeing a lot of hints of paranoid schizophrenia, which indicates maybe meth usage along. Because what is a meth head like after, just a $10, $20 bag of glass or ice, smokable meth, snortable meth? Nothing like some beer or some Xanax to take the edge off. And Maine is one place where any hobo knows you can get every fucking pill in the book up there. Maybe that's why you was looking so fatigued and stuff in that video. I don't know, but you brought up some mysteries now that I primarily question. What happened to you young in life? And why do you continue to think that it's somehow noble that you're living the American dream like some of your... please, I've, examined. It doesn't take long for me to make a diagnosis on a lot of these people because they're just obviously batshit crazy. The minute I look at it, and most of them that watch you have had, a YouTube channel for 10, 12, 13 years or more. I think one went back to 2007. I think it's when YouTube began, almost about the same time as Facebook. And they have no subscribers or 1 or 2 subscribers, no content, no nothing. All they do is, because anybody take one look at them would find them to be as undesirable as I appear right now. If it weren't for my intelligence, and I'm not I do storytell here. I think I'm going to finish with that. I tell real stories. That actually the other day, a guy who's retarded like your followers said, "Oh, that didn't happen. That plane can't go that fast," because, like all retards, all you gumps, he forgot what I told him. He's never been around the mountains pretty much. Obviously, he's 80 years old, and he's over here trying to punch and slap the shit out of me. I knew the first time I met him he was a sour character. I told them updrafts and downdrafts. Mount Washington in New Hampshire regularly records 180 mile an hour winds. I don't have time to explain to you the physics of how something pushing 180, it's not the pushing, it's the lack of pressure from the front. But a brand new twin engine Beach on full throttle, autopilot on, January 1972. And these were transistors, not chips yet. And this was a guy that was told to me to be, we never had a formal introduction. I didn't even really catch his first name. I know all about his sister, Senator Nancy Landon Kassenbaum, whatever, who's the perennial senator from Kansas. I went flying with Alf Landon's son when I was 17 years old. It was something that I earned, Hobo. This was a ride that you'll never get. This is where I'm going to really fuck you and your little buddies up. I rode the Vomit Comet when I was 17 years old in a private airplane, and I earned that privilege through my athletic skills and notoriety. Your claims of me trying to steal your fame and build my channel off of your fame or something like that. Fuck you. I got two other channels. So I was recruited by every university in this country. Sometimes a whole conference would use just one party to approach me, but I'll get on with the story. So Saturday morning in Boulder, we went out to the airport, and I met Alf Landon's son, twin engine Beach. We took off and flew along the edge of the Rockies, and we no sooner got along the edge where he knew where all those updrafts and downdrafts, especially at that altitude, are ferocious. They don't call it the jet stream for nothing. We weren't at jet stream level. Let's get that straight. You have a good way of deliberately misinterpreting what other people said, twisting other people's words. He said this. He said he was moving as fast as a jet stream. I know what's wrong with you. And I got a feeling your dad is driving that electric golf cart because he's had a bunch of DUIs, and it doesn't require a license nor license plates to drive a golf cart on city streets, even here in the city of Austin. You can drive one of them big, they even got electric golf cart taxis here. You don't have anyway. So we take off, and he turns to me and says, "Say, Ken, how about we put it on autopilot?" And I go, "Yeah." And he flicked it on, throttled it up, and that was one of the wildest rides. We just totally ripped the tits off the Rockies. I mean, it was just like the bottom would fall out. Big downdraft. We'd come to the edge of a bit of a crest or something, and then just boom, we'd be heading down. You know, he knew what to set it. He had practiced this before. And by the way, one may not fly recklessly no more than one can drive recklessly, and this was mostly federal, property, Rocky Mountain National Park and stuff. But he had the political pull to get away with it. Yeah, I guess I earned the ride. We did something illegal, but he had the political pull to do it. And man, we could be like 1,500 feet above like a ridge, and then it just boom, straight nose down right at it, just hitting almost. That's what I told this old fucker. And he, just like you, has the same kind of comprehension problem. He leaves out the word almost. He thinks I said we hit Mach 1. No, I said we was almost hitting Mach 1 on the way down, and it'd be slow. All of a sudden, the autopilot would begin correcting, And then we would ride up in what they call a parabola. And when you start hitting the peak of that parabola, you become weightless. You realize that you're floating up. The only thing keeping you in place is your belt. And we would just kind of grin and look at each other and stuff, because you really don't want to. You're doing everything you can just to keep your breakfast down, for sure. And I think that was kind of a test of my character. And it was wild. You talk about all these wild train rides you've had. Mark Nicholson, professional hobo, adventure, Mr. Adventure. I rode the Vomit Comet on a private plane, brand new twin engine beach, transistors, not chips, along the edge of the Rockies, frequently getting very close to Mach 1, and not knowing if we'd often get within 100 feet just before it would really pull out. It was taking those transistors a little while to. And it happens so quick when you're moving that fast. So you think you've had some kind of great life. Anybody can tell you lived your life as a blackout drunk. You're toothless. You go around, depending on occasional, you say you went to a day labor place, but it was closed. And then you find a $50 bill. I've had your testimony from the people that hate you. You're a beggar. You're a moocher. You do that passive thing where you suggest or you indicate that you have a need. I'm planning on flying to Alaska. Like, could you buy me a plane ticket, Mr. Gogan, after I slept in your basement and sucked your dick or whatever? I sucked it so good. Honestly, I think Hobo Shoestring especially when you start talking about Lewiston, Waterville, and Bangor, which is like, some of the biggest gay male, the biggest cocksucker country in the women are too. The women, that's one of the reasons I kept going up to Maine after the first year, was that the women are trying so hard to prove that they're bisexual, not that they're bisexual, not just lesbian, that they just grab your dick and go to, I'm serious, fast as hell. I've never had to wait more than 30 minutes before some good-looking gal, is giving me a gobble. I don't want to be too graphic here because you could make a complaint, and I don't really give a shit. I can do this all over again. But there you go. I bet you've never had hardly. Was Loretta the love of your life? According to one person, you were pretty handy with her, and apparently like to get drunk with her a lot or whatever. I don't know why she defends you. Did you give her what they call in the trade, give her a gummer or something like that, or did you get all vulnerable with her, tell her about how your daddy molested you like one of your schizophrenic subscribers? I didn't believe him because children are sometimes, especially young girls and boys, they could be hypersexual, and young girls, they're craving to see if people are paying attention to their. That's one of the reasons I absolutely stay away from them, is that those little bitches will get you in trouble. And that's why in Bangor, Maine, we have the term prostitutes. They come out dressed like little whores by the time they're 10 or 11 years old, because that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to sell it. It's a broke-ass state. It's only recently getting an influx of out-of-state money, and Mainers hate people from out of state. You're from away, out of state. You can't get there from here. That's Maine for you. They're not a welcoming people. I have no idea why you'd want to, especially that was 3 months ago. This is how dumb. I'm at 1 hour now. This is how dumb he's talking about. I was checking on the maps and this and that. Why didn't you ever bother checking with the best meteorologist out on the YouTube, Hayes, or just simply watching the news? Because it was one of the wettest springs and summers and chilliest. It didn't really barely start warming up towards the until the end of August. You're talking about getting hot in that boxcar. That would have been almost 3 months ago. But that's not the way YouTube measures time. It has to be 3+ months. So it was 4 months ago. That'd be October, September, August, July. You go to central Maine when it's still chilly nights. Please, I spent one summer there that I think it was summer of 2000, 2001, where it almost never got above 45 or 55 during the day. And every night in Bangor, it was 31, 32, 33. It was at or below freezing every night for the entire summer. Endless winds. So, but it was a great summer for Roma. Oh yeah, it was. I think it's 2001. Oh yeah. I had 3 awesome women. One of them a Micmac. And one of them, Tracy, was one of the most brilliant, most beautiful women I've ever met. And she was into neurology and psychology. A neurologist. There's a lot of wealthy people in Maine, and I doubt you've ever met any of them. I've been taken on tours of some of the finest homes of Maine, especially in the art community. You keep trying to glorify and glamorize your dirty, gritty life as you're some kind of Western hero, American riding the plains at somebody else's expense and a danger to the stock investors. And I'm just going to finish with this. That it felt like it was all day, but it was less than 90 minutes going out, up, and then back to the airport. That little 90-minute flight was better than anything you've ever done in your life. Now, I've had women that you couldn't pay to have because you're such a repulsive fucker. You really are. And you're drunk. You still act like a drunk, you know. And I'm on to you, man. You're a vicious fucker who wears the Forrest Gump persona so that people will like you and give you money and let you sleep in their basement and crap like that and send you presents. And to tell you the truth, something like you sent that guy a Christmas present, that guy acted so gay that you were sleeping in his house. A guy that acts like that, no, we're not following. I got PTSD, and I've been around the homo world. No, I ain't gonna have nobody fucking creepy crawly types around me while I'm trying to sleep. I wouldn't sleep, to tell you the truth. I grew up in San Francisco when those people were coming out of the closet. And I think maybe it's time for you to come out of the closet, Mark Nichols. What's your hidden secret? What have you been running away from on the rails for 2.7 million miles? Are you another Angel Maturino Resendez that just hasn't been caught yet? Is that what you do? Is that what you really do, Mark? You creeping around in the bush and shit, waiting for some little old lady to whack upside the head while you're blackout drunk, don't even know you're doing it. and then have sex with her dead corpse? I think it's possible, because I used to work at the most famous prison in all the west of the South. It's the oldest. And that's where we had the psychiatric unit too, and the hospital. We had a whole cell block that was psychiatric, self-mutilators, all this stuff. I've been studying the human soul my whole life. It's called psych or psychology. Just remember, look at me close. I rode a private Vomit Comet when I was 17 years old, and then the next day was sent home on what was the Boulder, Denver to Honolulu Champaign flight, in which I get off in San Francisco as the only stop. And that was as the guest of Robert F. Six, Continental Airlines, who used to write me personal notes every freaking day trying to get me to go to the University of Colorado at Boulder. They gave me a penthouse. It had the library alone in the penthouse must have had like 20,000 volumes. Awesome views and stuff. You know, you're somehow trying to glamorize a life of soot, you know, shitting in the woods or shitting in a plastic bag. You don't even tell people how to. I am going to go a little. Look, if you're traveling, especially if you don't want to get in trouble with the enemy, you need to follow what is like the SAS style and stuff is on on top of your ruck, on top of your pack. That's where you keep your dookie. Actually, every 7-Eleven sells the perfect like 1.1 mil or better plastic bags. Drawstring helps too, because that 30-gallon trash can. And when you're in a train boxcar or something, you ain't got no place to. You never even really explain what the hell you do with your urine. You pee in a can and then throw it out the side of the car. Yeah, great. It's going to build up on the side of the car. But sooner or later, you can't stay constipated, all the time. So if you got to drop a deuce, and you got to do it astronaut style or SAS style. And especially if you don't want somebody tracking you or accusing you of fucking up the property, is because that's always been my thing, is pack it out. I spent a lot of time in Yosemite and stuff. Is I used to pack out other people's trash, especially people who they could climb to the top of like a 8,000-9,000 foot mountain carrying a 6-pack of beer or something, their favorite beer, and drink it all, and at that altitude, it really hits you good, and then leave all the cans there that weigh almost nothing. Then it wouldn't pack them back down. I always used to bring down as much weight as I packed up. Trash. That was during the Reagan years when he neglected the parks and the parks got trashed up. I also want to remind you, I am Kent Kruger. I'm in the history books. You're so old and toothless and repulsive and shit like that. Really. If you could really dig them up, although I've been pretty much buried by the NFL and a lot of they've already mentioned this. I turned down MGM Studios, a contract with MGM Studios when I was 17, guaranteed employment, guaranteed like a 12 to 20 film deal, doing, fight stunt work, actually being the villain. I actually do have far better dramatic skills than you do, ever will have. My teachers always told me that I should become an actor. the guy who taught drama at my school, which the movie Dangerous Minds is based on, is not very accurate. But Joseph Whipp, the drama teacher, he's got a long filmography. He both taught high school and made all kinds of movies. He's got like 50 movie or more TV credits to him. He usually would play the heavy, beard and bald, beginning to bald and long hair. And Joseph Whipp, 2 P's, WHIPP. This is the kind of world that you've lived in, this world of emptiness. And I went to high school with the guy that created the first CGI. I mean, I grew up with movie stars and people that are on. Almost everybody that you've known, they're nobodies. They're Christians out looking to be generous and convert every hobo and help out the poor. You've been doing this kind of poverty thing for a long time. Still want to know what you're running away from. Tell me, although I've got you blocked and you've got me, because I was about to comment and I realized that you probably returned the favor and blocked me. So that's okay. Didn't like you anyway. Didn't like you in the very first video. Knew you was a fake because you was too fucking clean. The last of almost all the videos I've seen, there one time you deliberately slid down that the rock, the gravel, because it was too steep. You're afraid you was going to fall or something. I could have walked down it. Wasn't that steep of an angle. You just kind of take a run at it. Please bear in mind, you're at least like 15 or more years younger than me. And you deliberately, scooted down on your butt. And this was before I even criticized you for being too clean. And I don't know why you'd want to be rubbing your butt over all that rock. I think you sat on your bucket or something. But anyway, that's pretty much it. You've been stealing space that I pay for on Amtrak. It's a lot better ride on Amtrak, because you think it's some sort of glamorous thing, and you get to hang out with this society of misfit toys, and you're nothing special. So, I mean, really, I don't really, I already figured it from the start that I don't think I'd ever really would waste any time getting to know, other than through this method, somebody who was pretty much forcibly detained and detox. I'm pretty sure you were in there on a mental health warrant because you were hallucinating. I'm pretty sure they had you on a minimum of a PIOC, or actually long enough that you were in there. You were there under, or they convinced you to do voluntary. You were in there under judge's orders. You were confined. You're involuntarily committed. So your followers like to keep calling me nuts, and almost everyone that I've examined shows signs of schizophrenia, mania, bipolar, and depressive. You've been selling that sad hobo thing for so long, and you've been living off other people's money when you're clearly able-bodied. Anybody can make that move, because I used to actually be able to touch my elbows, flat-footed, touch my elbows to the ground. Very flexible person. But since my reconstruction of my leg, I'm sorry, dude, you're just a fucking mess. You make these videos that are an hour and 45 minutes long, And I have not been able to get past the few minutes because you're not really, haven't really learned the art of showing the scenery, because that's what people really want. They want that moving camera. They want you do a fairly good job of moving around, but you spend way too much time putting. I have to put my own face on this because I'm a cripple. I'm immobilized. Like, I only got one functioning arm, and it's fatigued right now. And I have grown fatigued with you. You're just not a good actor. Your storytelling just reeks of the con, especially the short-term con, short con. At least Charlie, he did the long con. It took him a year before he ripped me off. $100, big fucking deal. Claimed he was a veteran. No. Real military people tend to develop